It has been 6 long years since Nipsey Hussle left this world, yet the chaos attached to his legacy refuses to rest. Every time the internet starts to breathe again, someone throws gasoline back into the fire. And this time, it is Wack 100 who has returned, dragging the entire conversation out of its grave. His new claims are so outrageous, so specific, so disturbingly confident that people on social media are not laughing anymore. In fact, many are whispering the same thing: what if he is actually telling the truth? Suddenly the timeline is in shambles, TikTok detectives are stitching videos by the minute, and Twitter is treating this like the next national crisis. Back when Wack first hinted that he had seen explicit footage involving Nipsey's partner Lauren and another man, the whole internet brushed it off. People rolled their eyes, saying, "This is simply Wack being Wack, loud for no reason, reckless for attention." Influencers cracked jokes. Reaction channels farmed views. Everyone dismissed him as the man who would say anything for a headline. But now? Now that same man has returned with the confidence of someone who believes he holds nuclear evidence. He claims he is sitting on over a dozen videos. Not rumors. Not whispers. Actual footage. 12 plus. And that detail alone has the entire culture spiraling into panic. But the story did not stop there. Wack dragged Diddy into the center of the storm with surgical precision. According to him, Diddy's former partner Cassie was not simply an acquaintance of Lauren. She was close. Extremely close. Too close. And now a disturbing narrative is taking shape online, whispers that Lauren was allegedly present at the same infamous freak-off events that have been attached to Diddy's name for years. Twitter threads are exploding, YouTubers are already dropping reaction videos, and fans are saying the same thing: this cannot be real, right? Yet the more Wack talks, the more people cannot look away. If even a tiny fraction of these claims turn out to be true, the ripple effect would be catastrophic. Because suddenly, those old whispers about Nipsey's death, whispers that everyone avoided out of respect, start feeling less like conspiracy and more like unspoken truth. Almost as if the puzzle pieces were always scattered across the table, but nobody wanted to connect them because it would force the world to confront something darker. Something calculated. Something planned. Nipsey deserved peace, yes. But the truth rarely travels peacefully. Now the streets are rewinding everything. Old interviews, past interactions, subtle moments people ignored at the time, everyone is grabbing digital magnifying glasses, pulling receipts, and stitching timelines like investigative journalists. And once you place those events side by side, the so-called coincidences between Diddy and Lauren begin to look suspiciously intentional. Too aligned. Too convenient. The internet is starting to say what many were afraid to speak out loud. Let us be honest. The streets never believed Nipsey's death was random. A man that strategic, that influential, that globally respected does not simply fall to a basic neighborhood dispute. It felt off from day one. People called it a takedown. A removal. A message. And now, with Wack 100 reopening the vault of chaos, that theory is crawling back into the spotlight with claws. Because if these claims intersect in any way, we are not simply looking at scandal, we are looking at a power play disguised as tragedy. Nipsey Hussle was never built like an industry puppet. He did not answer to labels. He did not bow to gatekeepers. He did not chase approval from the so-called kings of the culture. Nipsey moved like a general who already understood his destiny. And the higher he climbed, the more he disrupted the blueprint that powerful people depended on. When an independent mind rises too quickly, faster than the people at the top can contain, it creates the most dangerous thing you can be in the entertainment industry: a threat. Not because of ego. Not because of conflict. But because of influence. So when Diddy's legal empire collapsed under that RICO case and decades of secrets began spilling into the streets, the internet did what it always does. It started putting puzzle pieces together that nobody wanted to admit fit. And immediately, one theory shot across the timeline like a flare in the night: the idea that Diddy allegedly orchestrated Nipsey's death. Whether people believe it or not is one thing. But here is the part that refuses to die. If Diddy truly had anything to do with it, he could not have moved alone. Someone close to Nipsey would have needed to open that door. Someone he trusted. Someone the world would never suspect. And every time the internet circles that board, the same name keeps glowing like a red warning light: Lauren London. It did not help that Jaguar Wright once stepped forward screaming that Lauren was the one who introduced Nipsey to Diddy. People dismissed Jaguar as dramatic, messy, over the top, until old clips resurfaced. Clips where Nipsey himself calmly confirmed that Lauren was the bridge that led him straight to Puff. That single detail hit the community like a slap. Suddenly fans were asking darker questions no one dared to ask before. What if Lauren was not just a partner? What if she was a piece of the machine? An insider guiding him into circles he never needed to enter? Then the photographs resurfaced. Lauren and Diddy standing a little too close, with a level of comfort that raised eyebrows everywhere. And there in the background, Nipsey himself, looking almost like an afterthought in his own relationship. In another clip, Diddy behaved suspiciously soft toward Lauren, asking if he ever managed to make her laugh, as if they shared a private world that Nipsey was only visiting. Those moments aged badly. Horribly. Because suddenly they were not innocent snapshots. They looked like hints. Then fans remembered something else. Lauren's best friend was Cassie, and Cassie was deep inside Diddy's world for years. Word going around says even Cassie's own sister once worked for Diddy as an assistant. That means Lauren was not simply adjacent to Diddy. She was connected to him long before Nipsey became a global symbol. Intertwined. Embedded. And once fans saw that, the ugliest question any community can ask began spreading: was she truly loyal to Nipsey, or was she serving two masters? Then came the infamous Angie Martinez interview. Polished. Emotional. Carefully executed. But when you replay it now, the tone hits differently. Lauren repeated something Diddy once told her: "Look, boo, you showed the world what it looks like to hold a man down. Now show them what it looks like when everything falls apart. That is your responsibility." But why did Diddy call her boo, the same nickname Nipsey used? Why did he have that kind of personal access? Why did his words sound less like comfort and more like instruction? But the moment that cracked the internet was when Lauren revealed she had attended a death seminar before Nipsey passed. Who does that? Who studies death unless they feel something coming? Unless someone warned them? Unless they were preparing? Then Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, stepped into the chaos and dumped gasoline everywhere. He said Nipsey asked Diddy to help make Victory Lap feel like Biggie's legendary final project. Same grand production. Same impact. Diddy even hinted at it in old interviews. At the time, fans thought it was respect. Inspiration. Tribute. But they forgot the most chilling detail: Biggie's final project dropped after he was gone. And that is when the theory snowballed into something monstrous. Gene Deal said straight up that letting Diddy into the creative process was Nipsey's biggest mistake. After that moment, Nipsey found himself spending more time at Diddy's mansion than inside his own studio, a shift so subtle only the closest people noticed. But once fans looked back, the signs were everywhere. Photos where Nipsey appeared drained, interviews where his energy felt muted, moments where his natural confidence seemed weighed down by something heavier, something invisible. It felt like a man carrying a secret he had no one to tell. Observers swear that was the turning point, the moment the machine finally realized he was inspiring too many people to think for themselves. And in an industry built on control, a man who cannot be controlled becomes a liability. Nipsey was independent. Community-driven. Ownership-focused. He was not simply bending the rules, he was replacing them with something honest. Something empowering. And for people who built their empires on fear and obedience, a man like that is not just inconvenient. He is dangerous. So the whispers began. Quiet at first. Ridiculous even. Until the coincidences multiplied into patterns. And then patterns hardened into theories. And the one circulating through the streets today is simple, chilling, and cruel. If you cannot control a man like Nipsey Hussle, then the only option left is to remove him. But even that could not happen from the outside. Someone had to walk him into the lion's den. Someone had to guide him through the door with a smile soft enough to make him feel safe. Someone he trusted so deeply that suspicion would never even flicker. And that is when the streets shifted their eyes toward the one person nobody ever imagined could be connected to anything so dark. Lauren. People online began resurrecting clips like they were digging through crime scene files, old interviews, red carpet footage, behind-the-scenes moments that felt harmless back then but suddenly looked sinister under new light. Viewers slowed down frames, zoomed into expressions, rewound subtle reactions, and found themselves staring at a pattern that felt impossibly calculated. There were moments where Lauren seemed uneasy around certain industry power players, moments where Diddy looked a little too relaxed, too familiar, as if he had access to her that went unspoken. And then there were the moments where Nip stood between them looking like a man unknowingly stuck between two worlds that had already decided his fate. And now, with Diddy sitting behind bars, facing real charges that stripped away the shiny image he curated for decades, the internet believes the truth is circling closer than ever. Folks are convinced that more names will fall, more stories will break open, and more industry layers will peel back until every hidden relationship, every secret meeting, and every handshake done in the shadows finally comes out in the light. One dude online wrote something that cracked the comment sections wide open. When I was young, everyone around me praised Lauren London like she was Hollywood royalty. But something in my gut always said no. Something felt off. His words did not just land, they detonated. People began replying with their own suspicions, their own memories, screenshots, rumors, timelines that once looked random but now clicked together like puzzle pieces that had always been part of the same picture. Then came another comment that hit even harder. It came out that Lauren had known Diddy for years. She was Cassie's best friend. She introduced Diddy to Nipsey because Diddy could not get to Nip directly. And somehow Diddy ended up credited on Nipsey's last album. How does that even make sense? That statement sent digital shockwaves through forums, group chats, and conspiracy threads. Because when you line up the timeline, ask the hard questions, and look at the evidence people ignored, the coincidences begin turning into a blueprint. Why exactly was Diddy suddenly invested in Nip's rise? Why did a man who represents independence, self-power, and ownership get pulled into the orbit of someone who has spent decades allegedly controlling artists, silencing voices, and shaping narratives from behind the curtain? And when fans dug deeper, the picture got even darker. They found interviews where Nip hinted at mistrust, moments where he suggested that certain industry figures did not have pure intentions. He spoke in coded language, never fully naming names, but the message felt clear. He sensed something. He felt something. Yet somehow, he kept going back to Diddy's mansion. He kept appearing at events under Diddy's influence. He kept orbiting a man whose power allegedly extended far beyond entertainment, to politics, law enforcement, and territories nobody talks about openly. People began saying Nip looked different during his final year. Not broken. Not scared. But spiritually pulled in a direction he never wanted to go. There are photos where his smile looks tight, like he is masking something. Interviews where he pauses, as if choosing his words carefully to avoid crossing a line. Videos where his eyes drift, where his voice softens, as if he is carrying a secret he knows he cannot share. And the biggest question haunting the streets is this: how did Nipsey, a man who protected his peace, who moved with intention, who trusted almost no one, end up walking directly into the orbit of someone like Diddy? That is where Lauren's name keeps circling back. Because if she had been close to Cassie for years, then she had access to Diddy long before Nipsey entered the picture. Fans believe she might have been the bridge he walked across without hesitation. The door he trusted because of love. The one entry point Diddy would never have gained alone. People replay interviews where Lauren talks about knowing everybody in Hollywood, gliding through rooms most newcomers never entered. She mentioned attending parties, being connected, being visible in circles others only whispered about. Suddenly the puzzle pieces reorganized into a different narrative. Not necessarily one of guilt, but one of proximity. Influence. Alignment. A person caught between two worlds, one built on affection, the other built on unimaginable power. Now, with Diddy facing charges that grow uglier by the day, people online believe the truth is bubbling up, and bubbling fast. They say when a man like that falls, he does not fall alone. He drags everyone connected to him, everyone who kept secrets, everyone who played even the smallest role, whether intentionally or unknowingly. Some even question the timing of everything. Nipsey's rise. Lauren's Hollywood links. Cassie's lawsuit. Diddy's empire collapsing. Old stories resurfacing about manipulation, intimidation, and the lengths certain figures will allegedly go to keep control over their kingdom. When dominoes line up this perfectly, people start asking if it was random, or if someone set the entire pattern. Fans look back at Nip's final year and point out how his voice was beginning to move outside hip-hop, into finance, community building, real estate, generational wealth. He was planting seeds that threatened structures built long before he was born. And historically, individuals who spread ideas like ownership, independence, and empowerment often become targets. And the streets cannot stop asking one final question, the one that feels like the center of this entire storm: was Nipsey Hussle simply rising, or was he being watched? And if he was being watched, who was standing next to him without realizing they were part of something far bigger? When people online say Lauren introduced Diddy to Nip, they are not claiming she had malicious intentions. What they mean, at least according to the internet's retellings, is that she was part of a chain reaction no one could have anticipated. A moment that felt harmless at the time, a casual introduction in Hollywood's fast-moving social circles, but one that now feels, in hindsight, like the first quiet ripple before a storm. Because right after that introduction, right after Nip began showing up at Diddy's mansion, right after he stepped into rooms that did not match his spirit, something in the universe shifted. Subtly at first. Then unmistakably. And now, with Diddy facing charges that peeled back layers of the industry the public never even imagined existed, the internet believes the truth surrounding Nipsey might surface too. Not because anyone knows anything, but because scandals have a way of dragging everything connected into the light. Once investigators put the industry under a microscope, the relationships people never questioned might start looking strange. Powerful individuals who once walked untouched might begin pointing fingers to save themselves. And in that scramble, the internet fears Nipsey's story could resurface, not as the tragic tale everyone accepted, but as a puzzle that was never fully solved. That is why the theories keep intensifying. Why people revisit old footage. Why strangers who never met Nip feel compelled to speak on things they noticed years ago but silenced. Because deep down, something about his death has never sat right with the public. It never felt random. It never felt aligned with who he was or the direction he was headed. And when something refuses to make sense, human nature fills the silence with patterns, theories, speculation, anything to explain the unease. Whether these theories are accurate or nothing more than internet imagination, one sentiment keeps resurfacing: Nipsey's energy changed when he entered Diddy's world. Something shifted. Something dimmed. And, as the internet loves to ask, someone had to open that door. But here is where the theory takes its sharpest twist, because as chaotic as the online crowd can be, there are moments when the entire community pauses and collectively whispers, what if we were focused on the wrong thing entirely? That exact shift happened here. Some people do not believe the Lauren narrative at all. Not even slightly. They believe the real story, the one no one wanted to say out loud, is something far more taboo, uncomfortable, and explosive. They believe the theory never revolved around Lauren. They believe the whispers were about Nipsey. Because during the trial, when those boy-toy allegations about Diddy erupted across social media like a bomb with no warning, the entire internet froze. Suddenly, all the past rumors about Diddy mentoring younger male artists took on a different tone. They were no longer jokes. No longer memes. No longer throwaway gossip. They became puzzle pieces that people had brushed aside for years, now fitting together in ways no one expected. Users began naming names with chilling confidence: Meek Mill, Usher, YK Osiris, French Montana. Some insisted that the so-called mentor pipeline was not mentorship at all, but a disguise for something murkier hidden beneath the industry facade. And as the courtroom peeled back the layers of Diddy's world, the internet followed the pattern, digging through years of footage like amateur detectives building a case they never knew they were part of. That is when those clips resurfaced. The ones of Nipsey and Diddy in the studio together, once seen as harmless artistic collaboration. But now, seen through a lens clouded by allegations and hindsight, people online began dissecting every frame. The way Diddy looked at him. The lip movements. The glances that once meant nothing suddenly meant something, at least to the viewers already deep in conspiracy mode. People pointed out moments where Diddy's eyes lingered too long, moments where he seemed to stare at Nip with an expression described by viewers as admiring, hungry, or far too familiar. Meanwhile, Nipsey looked perfectly normal. Relaxed. Focused. Innocent. He appeared unaware of anything unusual, if anything unusual was even happening. The discomfort people spoke about online came entirely from Diddy's side, not Nip's. To the internet, that imbalance said everything. The theory, again, completely speculative, shifted away from Lauren entirely. And suddenly the conversation was not about her at all. It was about something far more unexpected, and far more dangerous to even suggest. People online began saying Nipsey looked like he did not even realize the type of attention he was receiving. And the internet, being the internet, did not filter a single thought. One user threw a comment so blunt that it shook the entire thread: if you think Diddy and Lauren London were a thing, then you are missing the obvious. Why was Diddy zooming into Nipsey like that? Why did he make those facial gestures while pretending it was a normal selfie with Nipsey behind him,